Most clay shooters spend years trying to find one perfect shooting method. Swing through, pull away, maintained lead. They pick one, practice it, and try to force every target into the same system. But Braxton Oliver just won the 2026 World English Sporting Championship. And here's the interesting part. He doesn't shoot every target the same way. Oliver says his shooting foundation came from his grandfather, Larry Corbett, who was a swing-through shooter. But today, he uses a mixture of swing-through, pull-away, and maintained lead, depending on the target presentation. So maybe the secret isn't finding the perfect method. Maybe the secret is knowing when to change methods. And that's exactly what makes Braxton Oliver's approach so interesting. Chapter 1. The One-Method Trap. Think about what happens when most shooters learn a technique. Someone tells them, use swing-through. So they practice swing-through. Then they see a target that doesn't fit it. Instead of changing the technique, they change everything else. They rush the gun, they chase the target, they force the lead. And suddenly, the shooter isn't missing because the target was impossible. They're missing because they're trying to make one technique solve every problem. Sporting clays doesn't work that way. A fast quartering target isn't the same problem as a long crosser. A dropping target isn't the same as a rising target. A short, quick target doesn't give you the same visual information as a long, predictable one. So why should the solution always be identical? That's where Oliver's approach becomes interesting. His foundation is still built around one familiar system, but he doesn't treat that system like a religion, he treats it like a tool. And that's a massive difference. Chapter 2. Where Oliver's foundation came from. Oliver didn't invent his shooting style overnight. He learned the game from his grandfather, Larry Corbett. Corbett was a world-class shooter himself, winning the 2011 World Veteran English Sporting Championship and the 2015 World FITASC Super Veteran Championship. And Corbett was a swing-through shooter. Oliver says that became the foundation of his own style. But here's where the story gets important. Oliver didn't stop learning once he had a foundation. Over time, he picked up pieces from other elite shooters, and eventually, his approach evolved. Today, he says he uses swing through, pull away, maintained lead. The target decides, not his ego, not a rule, not the technique he used 5 minutes ago, the target. And that is a completely different way of thinking about shooting. Chapter 3. 3 methods, 1 goal. Let's simplify what Oliver is doing. Method 1. Swing through. With swing through, the gun starts behind the target. You move through the target, accelerate past it, and fire as the muzzle reaches the appropriate relationship with the target. For some shooters, this creates a natural rhythm. And for Oliver, it's the foundation he grew up with. But there's a problem if you force it onto everything. Some targets simply don't reward the same visual pattern. That's where the second option comes in. Method 2. Pull away. Here, the gun begins on or near the target. You establish the target visually, then move away from it while maintaining the correct relationship and fire. For certain presentations, this can make the lead easier to visualize. The shooter isn't trying to manufacture a huge swing. They're establishing the picture, then creating the separation they need. And then there's the third. Method 3. Maintained lead. This is where the shooter establishes the required lead and maintains that relationship as the target moves. No dramatic chasing, no unnecessary acceleration, just controlled movement while preserving the visual gap. And this is where Oliver's philosophy becomes clear. He isn't asking, which method is the best? He's asking, which method gives me the clearest picture for this target? That's a much smarter question. Chapter 4. The World Championship Test. And this wasn't just theory. Oliver had to use his decision-making under the biggest pressure of his career. At the 2026 World English Sporting Championship in San Antonio, Texas, the main event had 997 competitors. Oliver entered the Super Final 1 target behind the leader. The Super Final consisted of 25 targets. One mistake can completely change the mathematics. But instead of trying to force the comeback, Oliver focused on something surprisingly simple. He said, keep calm, stay relaxed, see the targets clearly. That's important, because when you're behind, your brain wants to speed everything up. You want to catch up. You want to make something happen. You start pushing, and pushing is exactly what can destroy your normal shooting rhythm. Oliver did something different. He stayed composed. Then, he committed. He broke 19 of 25 targets in the superfinal and finished one target ahead of both Geben Miles and Derek Mine. He entered one target behind. He left as world champion. Chapter 5. The real secret isn't 3 methods. But here's the part most people could easily misunderstand. The lesson isn't learn 3 shooting methods. That's not the secret. Because if you don't understand the target, having 3 techniques won't save you. You'll simply have 3 ways to miss. The real advantage is adaptability. Elite shooters don't just execute movements. They read situations. They look at the target's speed, line, angle, height, distance, and most importantly, how the target visually behaves. Then they choose the movement pattern that gives them the cleanest chance to connect. That's why copying a champion can sometimes make you worse. You copy what his gun does, but you don't copy the decision that happened before the gun moved. Oliver's real skill isn't just the movement. It's knowing why he's choosing that movement. That's the difference between memorizing a technique and understanding shooting. Chapter 6. Why this matters for older shooters. And this is where Oliver's approach becomes especially useful for recreational and older shooters. You don't necessarily need to rebuild your entire shooting style. In fact, that's often a mistake. If you've been shooting for decades, constantly changing your fundamentals can create more confusion than improvement. Instead, keep your reliable foundation. Then learn to recognize when a target is asking for something different. Don't ask, "What method do I always use?" Ask, "What does this target give me?" If your normal method produces a clean visual picture, use it. If the target feels rushed or awkward, don't blindly force the same movement. Slow your thinking down. Read the target. Choose the simplest movement that gives you a clear picture. And then, commit. That's much closer to how a world champion approaches sporting clays. Braxton Oliver didn't become the 2026 World English Sporting Champion because he discovered a magical shooting technique. His foundation came from his grandfather. His experience came from years of competition. And his current method evolved by learning from different shooters and adapting to different target presentations. That's the real lesson. Don't become a slave to one shooting method. Build a foundation. Understand the target. Choose the method that gives you the clearest picture, and then trust it. Because the best shooters don't ask the target to fit their technique. They make their technique fit the target. And perhaps that's the real secret behind Braxton Oliver's World Championship. Not one perfect method, but knowing when one method isn't enough. If this changed the way you think about shooting, subscribe to Shotgun Recoil. Because sometimes the biggest improvement isn't learning a new technique. It's finally understanding why your current one works, and when it doesn't.